This week, we lost one of the greatest music producers of all time. Quincy Jones died at 91. He's responsible for some of the greatest albums ever made, for some perfect movie soundtracks and TV shows. He's truly just done it all. The group chat is here. You'll hear a tribute to Quincy Jones. My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. This is Commotion. Look, I think the best place to start is right here. Don't pretend like you don't know what it is. From 1985, that is We Are the World, the all-star charity single for famine relief in Ethiopia. And on this track, you can hear Michael Jackson, you can hear Bruce Springsteen, you can hear Diana Ross, Bob Dylan, and so many more people. And the reason we're starting here is there is only one producer who could get all of those pop legends in one room together. The one and only Quincy Jones. In a musical career that spanned over 70 years, Jones revolutionized the sound of pop music many times over. He worked with everyone, from Frank Sinatra to Michael Jackson to Amy Winehouse. Quincy Jones died this past Sunday at his home in Bel-Air. He was 91 years old. Today on Commotion, we're going to pay tribute to the man and all the amazing music that he gifted us in his lifetime. Michael Williams is here. Maura Johnston is here. Michael, Maura, thank you for being here, friends.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Hi. Listen, Michael, I'm going to start with you, man. What went through your mind when you heard that Quincy had passed?
I woke up to condolences on my phone from friends that knew that we were friends. And took a while before I cried. I thought a lot. And then I just sort of, crying's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to come in tears, but it came. And the memories and stuff. So, like when my sister passed, I had to remember to keep him in my heart and in my consciousness, and just he was a part of me. So as long as I keep that part going in me, and that part could never expire because there was so much time that we spent together before I knew him and after I knew him, that I was grateful, thankful, and his presence in my life was more than a blessing.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. I want to come back to that in just a moment. But Maura, let me go to you. How did the news land for you when you heard that Quincy had died?
It just felt like a chapter of popular music was ending, because he was so crucial to so much of it during the 20th century, especially. And it really, there's so many aspects of pop music that his influence touched directly and indirectly. The phrase "the end of an era" is used a lot, but I think that that's very apt here.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent way to put it. I think when you look back at the career of Quincy Jones, there are so many layers to dig into. But why don't we start with this one? I'll tell you this, when this song starts to play, like, you physically walk differently, right? Like, your body adapts a different rhythm. From 1962...
I'm sitting down and I was walking differently.
I know the feeling. Like, your body's kind of collapses into an entirely different kind of rhythm. Michael, what were you going to say?
I'm walking, man, and the vibe hit me. It was, I remember from My Definition to the Dream Warriors to Mike Myers. For me, it begins with walking in space.
Yeah.
And all of that. And to have this track be such a great track that was used by the Canadian Connection, the Dream Warriors.
Yes.
Is wow. And when he was in town once, I said to him before he got here, I said, "So who do you want to see?" He wanted to see Rob McConnell, who we couldn't find, the great brass player. Yeah. And he wanted to meet the Dream Warriors. Them I got. He said, and I quote, they made me a lot of money.
I love the way that you put that. Okay, I just want to explain to people some of the context there, because the song that they just heard, Quincy Jones, and the song is Soul Bossa Nova. Some listeners
Soul Bossa Nova.
Some people know it as the theme song for the game show Definition, but also a lot more people know it from the sample, right? From the Dream Warriors 1990 single, My Definition of a Bombastic Jazz Style. It also showed up as an Austin Powers theme song. You know, like it's honestly, Quincy is kind of everywhere. Michael, can I just ask you, before he was this superstar pop producer, Quincy had been, of course, a storied band leader, a storied soundtrack composer in the 50s and 60s. How do you think that foundation helps him, you know, sort of achieve this kingmaker, this pop kingmaker status that comes later?
And even before that, he was hanging with Charlie Parker. One of his first bands had Ray Charles in it.
Yeah.
You know, the man who basically invented soul music single-handedly along with Sam Cooke and revolutionized country music. So music was his sanctuary. Music was his hiding place. Music was his world, and it was easier for him to exist in that world than other worlds. And his education was next to none with Nadia Boulanger in France. Pierre Boulez, who was one of the first electronic music composers, he was always ahead of his time. He was the one who told Robert Moog, when Robert Moog asked him, "Why don't black musicians use my Moog?" He says, because you can't bend the notes. So he put in the wheel, bent the notes. Everybody started to use it.
That's a different kind of revolutionary, right? When you can sort of imagine the way that technology could serve an entirely different purpose. Like he just he's someone who just kind of saw the whole board at all times. It's also,
yes.
I think Maura, to me, like he's someone who's also just so involved in so many monumental records that it's kind of easy to forget that he had a hand in this song from 1963. I should tell people who are listening on the radio that like Michael is on a walk as he answers these questions, and it's a delight to see Michael dancing. Just as like we sort of choose all the songs. Maura, that's Leslie Gore. That's It's My Party, produced by Quincy Jones. This is one of his first big pop productions. What does this song tell us, you think, about the kind of producer he would become later?
I just think it shows off how his pop instincts were impeccable, and also how he really got to the heart of how people wanted to express sadness and disappointment. Certainly, like, you know, I made a joke earlier that it was like a Brat song before Brat Summer in a way because of the It's My Party. But I mean, it does have that kind of, you know, girl group sensibility and everything, but also the brass on it, really drives home all the emotion.
I love that song. I listen to that song quite often, but also the other song that sticks out to me from Leslie Gore is "You Don't Own Me."
You Don't Own Me.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about "You Don't Own Me," Michael, because right now on the biggest tour on the planet, on Taylor Swift, before she hits the stage, not to make everything about a Taylor Swift connection, but before she hits the stage, the last thing that people in the arena hear, and I've always kind of thought this is like a funny way to arrive on stage, is with a gigantic Quincy Jones production, but "You Don't Own Me" is the song that hits your ears right before Taylor kind of comes out. Quincy is everywhere, even in places you don't always think of him to be, Michael. Like, where do you see Quincy?
Absolutely.
Where do you see Quincy?
I see Quincy, if anything, I've patterned myself after him unknowingly so, being everywhere that black people weren't expected to be.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
If he could feel the soul in it, or discover the soul in it, or even bring the soul to it, he could do it. He found songs by Rod Temperton from Heatwave to work perfectly with Michael Jackson. He turned Michael Jackson's vocal ability for doing his demos and singing everything. And those demos are available, I think, on the latest edition of Off the Wall and Thriller. Yeah. He sang all those parts to Quincy, and Quincy came in and took them, put them together. And then I think, and he was the one who called Eddie Van Halen, you know, and you might not expect him to call Eddie Van Halen. So, and he just offered himself to every style of music that was important, that he could feel, and he was a part of music. He was not a man. He was music. You know, he didn't have blood. He had notes. And everyone from Charlie Parker, he told me a story about him and Charlie Parker in Harlem. And Charlie said, well, give me $20. I'll go get the pot. Charlie went to get the pot, but he never came back, So there was a hopefulness of him that things could and would happen. And he made things happen, and everybody showed up for him. If you look at his records, they were like Noah's musical ark.
Yeah.
I want to go back to, first of all, there's so many beautiful little sentences that you just said that I want to spend time with many of them.
Oh, well, thank you.
But I want to go back to one particular one that you said, which is he was everywhere black people weren't expected to be. Because I think
Absolutely.
That's an important thing to say. Because right after that song, Leslie Gore's song comes out, he gets a promotion at Mercury Records. He becomes the first black vice president of a white-owned record label. This is 1964 we're talking about, Michael. So much of what's been written about him is that, like, how he broke down and transcended racial barriers. Did he see himself that way?
Of course not. We never see, as black people, we never see ourselves that way. If we survive, get the check, and don't get shot and get home, we're good.
Right.
So when he got his first check for Leslie Gore as a producer, he said, "What is this for?" They said, "Because you produce it and you get some points." He didn't know. This is a guy who took his band all around Europe, sold some publishing to get them back as a band leader. And he's at Mercury producing records. He produces the first record. He wasn't greedy about it. He was just happy and thankful to do it and have a job. And he gets his first check and he goes, "What's this for?" So no, he didn't see it that way, but everything that he could apply his craft to and enjoy it with, he did. He made stars out of people that would not be a star. And, I had the grace to be with him a number of times just to see some of these things. And it was just beautiful to be in his presence. And I think that he was classically black. He brought the wonderfulness of the black community and black music and the music community. He put all of that together in a way that nobody had. And he also invited everybody into it as well, whether they were black, white, or indifferent. And the fact that Taylor Swift uses that song, not only does she have musical taste, but that speaks to her from what, let's say, Donald Trump and others in that community have been doing and saying to her. So the thing is that Quincy is universal.
I just want to just do a little pause here. My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud, and this show is called Commotion. And on today's show, we are remembering the great Quincy Jones, who passed away on Sunday. Maura, as you can imagine, it is hard to talk about Quincy without talking about this. I know this is supposed to be like a mournful show. This is a reflection show. This is a legacy show. But also, Quincy has given us so many gigantic hits that, like, there's also just so much movement to the songs that we're playing. But that is, of course, Michael Jackson, the blockbuster album, the big one. That is Thriller. That is, of course, the title track. This is the one, Maura, that made Quincy the most famous producer on the planet. I would say Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones were both successful before they joined forces, before Off the Wall, right? Before they kind of started working together. What made their union so unique, you think?
I think that they saw in each other like Michael was saying, like that potential, and that they just had a mutual respect for each other and what the other could do. And like they just, it just seemed like that, from what I've read and what I've heard, like it just seemed like the two of them were always like pushing to make things better. Like, that song was originally called Starlight, and then it was like, no, like, let's make it better. And then it was Thriller, and then they added Vincent Price. And, it was really like this kind of anything is possible ideal, which I think the Eddie Van Halen inclusion on Beat It also speaks to. And man, I was 8 when that record came out, and I was so just like, it changed everything. It changed the way that I listened to music, because it was just so full of ideas.
I think it's hard to like overstate how big of a deal Thriller was.
It was
because
such a big deal.
Michael, I want to play something off a record that you picked as your favorite Quincy Jones production.
Gotta find me an angel.
Please stop.
To fly away with me. Gotta find me an angel. Ooh, and
Michael was
Now,
walking. Michael is now sat down.
I sat down. You know what you didn't play off of that was the intro to that, where she talks about her sister helping her write the song.
She being Aretha Franklin. Yes.
Yeah, she being Lady Soul, Aretha Franklin. If anybody didn't know that voice, then your musical education is lacking. And thank God you're here. And that was
why'd
from
you
the
pick
album.
this one though? Why is this your choice?
The album Hey Hey Now South Side of the Sky by Aretha Franklin, produced by Quincy Jones. It's one of the most important records in my life because I couldn't live without it. I keep it around me. When I heard that, I just lost my mind. It's the magnificence of her voice and the beauty of him working with her. There was nothing like that since you heard him work with Ray Charles or Miles Davis. And it didn't speak to the time. It spoke to forever.
Wow.
Okay. And she does a version of Somewhere on that album. If that don't make you cry, you don't have a heart, you don't have a soul, and you must not have a pulse, because that really is the quintessential version of that song with everything that song is about lyrically. So they took great songs, great instrumentation, took their time and did something that no one was doing at that time. You can hear the love. You can hear the love off that record. And then there's a big band piece that she does where she plays piano on that thing, and the horn arrangements, all the arrangements are just godly.
I should listen. The musical education will be lacking for a lot of people, so we should just tell people the name of the song, which is "Angel."
Angel was the name of the song, written by her sister Carolyn Franklin, and arranged and produced by Quincy Jones, sung by Aretha.
What I like about this, Michael, is that I'm asking you, I think, biographical questions about Quincy Jones, and what you're responding with is poetry, right? Like I'm asking you questions about history, and you're responding in a poetic kind of place. Do you want to talk a little bit about what he was like to be in his presence? Because you got to meet him right after Thriller comes out, in that sort of big post-Thriller moment, and then since then you spent a lot of time in his presence. Do you want to talk about what it was like to be around him?
I was blessed because David Foster, who's a very good friend, was at the Junos. And I think Rod Stewart was there at the time, and Quincy Jones showed up. And in the dressing room after his presentation, I was introduced to him, and we have been friends ever since that point. But I mean, I've cried earlier today, and I'm trying not to do that here now, because as I think of it and I think of him, he was just so giving and so wonderful to me that he didn't have to be. He didn't have to do that. And we hung out. I remember once in the back of the limo, I put in something I was listening to, and he said, "Michael, that meant take that shit off right now." And I did. It came out of the CD player quicker than it went in, And I produce most people don't know that I produce music. I play, I sing, I do all that stuff. And I only played him one thing I think that I produce, which is the Nylons. Don't look any further. I did 6 tracks on the album, and I played that for him. And he goes, "Oh, nice," And I went, him saying nice is like, that's like Zeus coming down from Olympus and giving you a thunderbolt, man. So it was a wonderful relationship. I could call him when I had problems to discuss a couple of things, and he took me through a few changes, and he helped me to be me better.
Let me pause here and say, to take it out of the realm of news story, and just say, I'm sorry for your loss, for your friend, for the Quincy that you knew personally, because that is a close and intimate relationship. And also, Maura, we have the somewhat difficult task of also returning to Earth, right? Like this is Michael who spent time with Zeus. Yeah. But we sort of have to look at this moment in the pop landscape, and you described it earlier as the end of an era. I sort of keep returning to that framing, and because it's really kind of hitting me as like, you're really right. And when we kind of look at this pop landscape right now, Michael kind of answered this question earlier, but I want to get your take on, where do you see Quincy? Where do you see Quincy as you kind of look at this arena of actually like somewhat famous producers, right? Like we know the names of some of them. We know Timbaland's name. We know Max Martin's name. We know Mark Ronce's name. But in your opinion, as you kind of look at this pop landscape, the landscape that Quincy obviously shaped, where do you see his influence?
So I was doing a little research for a piece that I'm doing, and I found a quote of his from 2022 when he was talking to Pharrell on a radio show, and he said he was talking about how in 1973 he produced a TV show that Duke Ellington headlined, and Duke Ellington apparently said to him, he said, "Quincy, may you be the one that decategorizes American music, and I've been faithful to that ever since." And I feel like that is just very, I mean, even with, you know, the ways in which our like algorithmic listening has our previous listening dictate what we're recommended and everything, I do feel like there is a sort of there's a greater desire for that decategorization that just people want to hear stuff that's good, you know, not necessarily like what they've heard before. They want that hope. They want that possibility in the music that they listen to.
When I want the surprise.
They want the surprise. Exactly.
What do you mean by that, Michael? Talk a little bit more about that.
They want the surprise, not the predictability of an algorithm. They want joy. They want peace. They want something. They want it to take them somewhere. It's a trip. It's a journey. It's a fantasy. It's a book to read. It's a book to feel. So they want to feel something, and that's Black music, man. That's Black music. That's Black culture.
What do you want to leave people with as they think about his gigantic legacy?
If you're a musician or a music fan, he himself is a constant master's class, but he is a school of music. So if you're a fan of music and you want to know about music, listen to Quincy. Please pay attention to everything that he did. And, you know, he also let me know that music is love. So share the love equally, and hopefully all the problems that we have will disappear within that love and within that music.
Well, my school of music is Maura Johnston and Michael Williams. I appreciate both of you guys being here. This has been tremendous. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for just sharing your thoughts and your heart with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Maura.
Nice to meet you, Michael. This was really I'm so sorry for your loss too.
Oh, hey, you know, I mean, I've been through so much loss. Not that it wasn't expected, but, you know, he was the party, you know, and the party can only go on for so long. And look, he got to 91 and he was classic Black right to the end.
That is a lovely, lovely place to leave it. I really appreciate both of you. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Hello, my love. I heard a kiss from you. Red magic satin playing near too. All through the morning rain I gave.
From 1977, that is a Brothers Johnson with their hit cover of Shuggie Otis's Strawberry Letter 23, produced by the late, great Quincy Jones. Quincy died on Sunday. He was 91 years old. That is it for the podcast today. Hey, you might have noticed that today is that big old thing that is happening, the U.S. election. We've covered the way that the election has kind of intersected with pop culture on this show, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to do that again, but tomorrow. Today, we're watching just like you are. But then tomorrow, we'll have a big pop culture and the election conversation. Till then, my name is Elamine. This is Commotion. See you tomorrow.
Or is it cool? Or is it cool?